let's go to the main speaker today, Sapna Sri Ravula. And Dr. Ravula is the founder and CEO of Aurkei. Aurkei, am I spelling it right? Am I pronouncing it right? Dr. Ravula is board certified, double board certified physician in family medicine and lifestyle medicine with a master's degree in public health, trained in business analytics from Harvard Business School, and executive leadership for women from Cornell. She's an accomplished leader with progressive experience in medical management practices, high-level corporate strategy, innovation, and implementation. She's passionate about providing holistic, empathetic care to patients, reducing health disparities. Please welcome Dr. Ravula. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Uli. I appreciate it. Just my kids are having their piano class, so if you hear melody, enjoy it. If you don't, still enjoy it. They're 7 and 11, so I appreciate the opportunity for being here today, and it's impressive to hear the innovation as well as the passion that people put in, sacrificing their everything, just for an idea. And I think that's what brings us all together. Without further ado, do you want me to jump in, Uli? Okay, sounds good. I'm going to start sharing my screen, and let's begin. So today I'm going to present Aurkei. My daughter named it, actually, because it sounded like the orca, so she was fascinated by it. And so Aurkei is a blockchain healthcare technology-based solution for helping bridge the gaps in data privacy, data portability, as well as data fidelity. Sometimes I do feel like we bit off more than we could chew. Currently, the problem that we are working on is big data in healthcare, the fragmented data between payers, providers, lack of a single chain of continuity for healthcare data, especially from EMR data, as well as medical device data. And the person who loses most is actually the patient. While there's a lot of B2B business transactions going on and billions of dollars, where nobody knows why they're buying all that data and they don't know what to do with all that data. At the end of the day, it's about the patient having access to their data in case of an emergency. By the roadside, you need to know your blood type, you're traveling, you're undergoing a procedure overseas, whatever it may be. We at Aurkei believe that data belongs to the data owner, which in this case in healthcare is the patient themselves. And also, while we try to bring the ownership of the data to the individual that generated it, we'll also consider a collaborative environment, because without this sense of competitive collaboration in healthcare, which most of us are already used to, we can't accomplish anything. And so that's where Aurkei started off. We established a little bit about the company. We established in 2021 at a time where blockchain was becoming very, very exciting. Our solution is a genomic avatar. In order to tie the various pieces of the puzzle together, it seemed that the simplest common denominator is a universal ID. Either you look at it from a patient perspective or from a provider perspective. Issuing a genomic avatar becomes very, very critical in order to track the data through the continuum. And while we're hoping to do this, we also see some of the challenges that the providers face with their own credentialing processes. The way the genomic avatar is structured is through a non-fungible identifier solution. And there's a couple of different reasons why we chose blockchain for providing the solution. And so it helps with the security, but it also helps with the trackability. Right now, it's kind of hard, and the CMIOs and the CIOs, the CEOs in data already know how difficult it is to track data and how difficult it is to tag data. The tagging part becomes critical if we are to ever maintain the data fidelity. And so this, while we are solving the technological problems as well as the real life problems of ensuring that patients have access to care, we've also extended the idea a little bit further so that it technically becomes a living asset. The genomic avatar becomes what 23andMe fell short of. And so it's something, and that's the reason why, again, we go back to the blockchain. We tag it onto the crypto, we have an added asset value, because so far crypto has been a speculative asset. But when we tie it with data, it's a tangible asset, and there is a way to grow the value of it without indulging in speculation. And it's also not just immutable, but it's also transferable. So your genomic data and your healthcare data starts gaining value, and then there is data attrition as well as data attribution. And so how it really works is you have an app, you download it, and you agree to the terms and conditions, hopefully without reading them all. And then once you do that, we become your data brokers. So we assign a genomic avatar and NFI. Our goal is to issue 7.7 billion NFIs because there's 7.7 billion people. We believe that each individual is unique. So once the individual downloads the app and is issued an NFI, by default, we become your data brokers. So we can aggregate data on your behalf. We can call your primary care doctor. We can fax the permission forms. We aggregate it all together. We store it all together, and we enable an ecosystem in which the data sharing happens. The goal is initially to get the data aggregation, but in the long term is to also delve into data monetization for the patient themselves. But at the same time, small steps, baby steps. The first one is the genomic avatar itself. And some of the problems that the genomic avatar solves for the patients obviously is, having various different identities and various different EMRs, the hassle of going through having records in multiple different places, especially for people who really need that kind of care. And one simple use case is that we are working on is medical device interoperability. All of the data sits in silos, and you have the payers aggregating a lot of data, the providers are aggregating a lot of data, and again, actionable intelligence is the key. You can have a ton of data, but how are you practically providing any value to the patient for anything, any small thing? So the area that we are primarily focusing on right now is a medical device interoperability, wherein the data generated by the device through a specific brand or a specific company is by default belongs to them at this point. If we delve into the patient-generated healthcare data, wherein the patient themselves becomes the generator, not just the generator, but also the owner, and then there is an ecosystem where different companies can not just learn from how the patient's body is responding or how the patient's body is acting in certain situations. We believe that there is a better way to provide better care for the patients themselves. Not just that, it also gives motivation to the individual to start enabling more transfer of data, without which it becomes very hard. And again, a lot of payers have tried, a lot of providers have tried. The one single thing that people forget is that an empowerment of choice and consent becomes very critical to move to the next phase. And again, a lot of you probably already know this, how data is spread. These are just some facts about what various factors influence why data is so scattered, why it is not intelligent. And so at this point, we have started with a very, very, very small POC. We are working with people with rare genetic conditions who are looking for data aggregators, since they are trying to participate in clinical trials. They're trying to find cures, and also they are moving from one specialist to another specialist, and all while managing jobs and children and paying mortgages and paying insurances. So we have a subscription-based model, which is $5.99 a month. And we also provide subscription models for the providers themselves to aggregate all of this data. And this gives a little bit of a background on how the smart contract works, how the blockchain works, and how we move through the Aurkei ecosystem. And we've analyzed the other competitors in this healthcare data world, again, with various EMRs, with various fitness devices, and personal data as well as healthcare data. The Genomic Avatar sits on that cusp between personal as well as healthcare data. And another thing that I'm also involved right now is I'm also in the Clinical Informatics program at the Duke University. And so a lot of the EMRs, specifically the big ones, are also trying to get into non-healthcare related data because they want to close that gap, that continuum. And what we are trying to do is put the power back to the patient for complete patient generated data. And the closest companies that we find similarities with, Nebula Genomics, started by a Harvard grad, and this has moved quite a bit. However, at the same time, there is lack of patient empowerment again, and then the possibility for data monetization. And then ProCredX does a fantastic job as well. And so there are some similarities, but there's also some weaknesses in these companies' business models, as well as their value offerings, which Aurkei is hoping to bridge the gap for the patients. And this is our journey so far, and Uli has been a very good supporter as well as a mentor and a guide. We were accepted into the MongoDB Accelerator program for the same thing, the healthcare data storage and tracking. The Genomic Avatar has been validated by the founders of the Human Genome Project. Our MVP phase 1 has been completed, where we have an app. Users can register. Our MVP 2 is in process for the data ingestion portion of it. We have a use case. We're working on one particular vertical with the leukodystrophy community. And so there's some traction, and so we're working on it as we go along. Currently, we are in the process of capital raise. We're looking for about $2 million. And this is our use of funds, our projected estimated use of funds. And this is our team. More than the funds, it's about the team. That's me over there. And we have Michael. He has over 15 years of experience in platform companies, scaling platforms. Gary is a CFO, worked with various large multinational financial organizations. She's our Chief Technology Officer. And Trang is our Chief Health Informatics Officer. She's very, very experienced and has worked with big names such as KKR, pulling off billion-dollar deals. And so these are the people that make me smile day after day after my family. But this is my family. And this is just a pitch for the investors. So if any of you are angels, we're more than willing to talk. We have 2 angel investor companies already who have done the due diligence. Preliminarily very interested, but they're waiting for the primary investor. And then we're working with a couple of different prospects for the primary investors as well. And that's our company, basically. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sapna. Great presentation, great, interesting company. I'm sure there's a lot of need for this kind of technology and company. So this is the time when we take questions for Sapna. Any questions from the audience? Just raise your hand so that I can see it, and then you can unmute and ask the question. Let's see. Okay, while you're thinking about it, now tell me about, I'll ask a question. Tell me about how you said monetization by the patients. How does that work? Or how do you see that working?
The genomic avatar acts as a kind of a tag to the data itself. So the platform that is created by Aurkei works as a marketplace where there is transactions of data between the individual and between various, let's say, research, regulatory authorities, researchers, payers, advertising, clinical trials. And so that is where the data monetization works. And that is why we chose the blockchain technology, because it's easier to transact the value back to the individual. It's kind of like a data tagging mechanism. So every time there is a sale, because data is not, and that's where Aurkei is different from other data aggregators, because data is bought and sold in bulk, de-identified, anonymized data. However, there is a push in the industry for personalized data, because we are entering the realm of personalized medicine. And so what has fascinated people, the data aggregators, the data consortiums previously, was buying bulk data, putting them through analytics and understanding why and what happened. And so that's been done. So the next stage is what happens to Gerald, what happens to George, what happens to Linda or Laura, whoever, what happens to them when they take this medication, and why does it happen? Which is why the pieces of the puzzle fit together, their genetics and their data, and so it fits together to help solve the next frontier of personalized medicine. So when that happens, and again, same thing, our data has been brought and sold without our permission or implicit or explicit permission for the past decade. But at this point, that's been saturated. If you want more data, you need to motivate me. You need to excite me. You need to inspire me to give you more data. And that's where Aurkei fits in. And so that's the part where there's a transaction fee, and then there's a data attrition and attribution. So let's say you have 100,000 people's data that you bought, anonymized, de-identified data, but then the genomic avatar can actually tag it back. And that's something that's of interest to pharmaceutical industries. So because they want to know what happened to that particular, the outliers are what are critically important. So if you start off with a new drug and people understand, it's a diabetes medication. If you take too much of it, your blood sugar goes down. So, you have the bell-shaped curve where most people fall in that, but then there's the outliers. Who are these outliers? So if you're not studying personalized data, you won't know who it happened to, but then there's more research questions that they need to ask. So the outliers become very valuable, and that's where the genomic data can tag it back to them. It's de-identified. I don't know who it is. They don't know who it is, but the genomic avatar can find that person. So the system basically finds them without violating any HIPAA clauses.
So I see that, this can work great for rare diseases, and, where where hard to find patients for research or for whatever purpose, for studying these people, and you can say describe a patient or a type of patient, and then you can find more patients like that in this.
Yep.
Is that how you
Yes,
envision this
absolutely.
being
And that's
used?
how we are launching it. However, there's a lot of clinical trials for normal people too, like a sleep study or a lung capacity study. You get like $250 to go sleep in a lab. And so there's no way I can't like go and search, hey, I want to make $250. Like, where do I go? But with the Genomic Avatar, you get that marketplace where you get the ads. So there's the ad generation. So every researcher who wants to advertise for people with no medical conditions, and hey, we want to study you. So there's no marketplace at this point for participating in such studies. So Aurkei also, in extension, becomes that marketplace for attracting people to participate. And again, it's a voluntary. People are joining it because again, it's an informed choice that they are being asked to make.
Interesting. Thank you. I see Andrea Timberlake raised her hand. Go ahead,
Yes.
Andrea. Ask
Yes.
the question.
Hi. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. I just love your presentation. It's just so interesting and useful. And I know you spoke about. I had the same question as Uli when I raised my hand, but I'm morphing that question because he asked it already. But you spoke about rare genetic diseases, and I'm open about it. I have a genetic mutation, factor V Leiden, that influences a lot of factors in my life. And as I get older, there are all kinds of conflicts in terms of food and medicine and all that. So I love to see something like that for people like me. And we're not rare, my genetic mutation was discovered through unfortunate circumstances, developing DVT and PE, right? But you can preempt this also without having to do very, very expensive testing, perhaps. I don't know exactly how you could do that, but that's an observation I want to ask you. In addition to that, if you plan to go into other areas, metabolomics or proteinomics or anything like that.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for the question, Andrea, and thank you for your kind words. A startup, warriors. It's always nice to hear, that encouragement. So thank you for that. First, I want to address that incidental findings of rare genetic conditions. And again, same thing, we're combining blockchain with genomic data. The way we've proprietarily set up the genomic avatar is in such a way that once you download the NFI, we give you various options. You just want to give your name, date of birth, social security number. That's one phase. Then you want to give us your DNA. That's another phase at which we can give you, the system already generates an NFI for you, genomic avatar for you. But if you want to make it stronger, then you volunteer that. And then the system processes it and then it runs through that. So you don't even need to go looking for it because there's very little, 3% of your genomic data, even less than that you actually need to identify some of the differences, key differences. And that's why we're so excited about this proprietary algorithm that we've set up that can help people know things that they were not even looking for ahead of time, give you that advantage, so to speak. That's one part of it. And are we planning to expand? Scaling is something that it's going to be something that we're going to have to work together with the community on. This is not a simple pure play. And that's where, that's why I involve people, I bring people, I talk to them. How do I solve this? Every day we're asking that same question. How do we scale this? How do we expand into other markets? But yes, we've identified 10 verticals. Again, same thing. And we're not even going by, and I hope there are no investors here because I don't want them to hear this. We're not going by how much we can make off of each vertical, but rather where is the need for a solution like this? Who are the people who are actually going to benefit from this? That's how we identify the verticals, and that's why we picked the leukodystrophy. And it's a real case. The mother of a child with leukodystrophy had transferred all her data to MIT. The child is terminal, almost on the deathbed. She's praying for a miracle. She gets the miracle. So then the next day or the week after she settled the child, she goes to MIT and asks them, have you made any progress? I've given you all my child's data. Have you made any progress? The only answer she received was that we cannot reveal that information to you. Why? Why can't you reveal that? It's her child's data. And that's where we have passionate people who really care about giving this, it's their data, it's their body, giving them the empowerment back. So we have identified 10 verticals. We are ranging between something medical, diabetes, to mental health. And so definitely tying all of it to genomics, personalized healthcare data, personalized medicine, definitely all the way through.
Thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Cynthia says genius solution.
Oh, thank you.
Like that in the chat.
You know what they say, genius, right? 1% 99% perspiration. So it's like a 999% perspiration at this point. But the team it's my family, I couldn't have done it without them.
It's definitely a noble idea. Dominic has a question. Dominic, go ahead, unmute yourself.
Thanks, Yuli. Yeah, Sapna, that was a great presentation, and it sounds like a real labor of love too. I just was wondering a little bit about your business model, and I might have admittedly missed this during your presentation, but is your model strictly, well, how much of it is B2B and B2C, and how has your thinking about the business model and who you're targeting as your customer evolved throughout your exciting journey so far?
So there's a little bit of a backstory to that. So I'm glad you asked that, Dominic. When we first started Aurkei, it was supposed to be something as simple as a health coin, helping people pay for their out-of-pocket costs, deductibles. And so the initial, and all startups go through this, we iterate, we evolve, we keep growing. The business model at that time was through a pure coin-based partnership model, wherein the payers and the providers participate in the health coin, and then that's where there's subscription models, payments, reimbursements, employers, and so that was the whole ecosystem that we've developed. In order to solve that, again, while we have that partnership, and we had interest from some small to mid-sized payers who wanted a health coin. This was in 2021, crypto was going very strong. Mm-hmm. So we had a very strong interest in small to mid-sized health insurance companies where the margins are very low, but they wanted that competitive edge. So they really were interested in the health coin. And we tried to explain to them that this is not a speculative coin. The coin is tethered to data. And so it was kind of hard to explain that, but at the same time, the interest was there. As we tried to solve the problem of data attrition and data attribution, how do I know it's your data? You shouldn't know, I'm looking, I don't want to look and know. That's where the Genomic Avatar evolved, and that solved the puzzle. Mm. So right now we have a B2C, which is a very small percentage. And think about it, leukodystrophy, very, very few people. And so that number doesn't even make any sense. Like, it doesn't pay for anything. That's the B2C model. The B2B model is where the big pharma comes in, companies like Roche, Pfizer, Sanofi, however, whoever, at the same time, controlled trials through what they're offering. And so a huge part of it is a B2B commercialization process. And so, that's where the challenge is.
Yeah, thank you. Interesting.
Sure.
Exciting work.
Thank you. We still have the coin though. We just don't present it. The minute we say coin, We have investors running the other way. That's why we chose the blockchain. How do you give money back to them? We may not be able to print money, but we can code money. And so it becomes an ecosystem of rewards-based incentives. So whether crypto is going up or down, because it's tethered to your data, the value stays, and then you inherit. You give it to your heirs, so it's yours. You keep it, you transfer it, it's yours.
Smart.
Interesting. Well, this is definitely the future of where healthcare should be going and will be going. It's just a matter of time. So thank you very much for your presentation. We'll move on.